All right, today is day 78, so grab your worksheet and let's get started. This is really crazy. The first thing that we're doing is the stuff that I usually skip for capitalization, but today I'm going to do it with you because it happens to be about how to capitalize titles. And that is something that we will be talking about, or I guess this will be happening after we had class. So we'll have talked about this in class, how to properly capitalize titles, because you need to be titling your essays. So if you take a look, it wants you to capitalize these titles and then it lists some. All right, but the thing that you want to remember is what are some of the rules of capitalizing in sentences? You capitalize the first word and the last word. You capitalize verbs. You capitalize big words. If you look at day 5 in your worksheet, day 5, it says capitalize the first word and the last word and all important words of any title. Do not capitalize a, and, the, and, but, or, nor, or prepositions of 4 or fewer letters unless they happen to be the first word or the last word of the sentence. Okay, so keeping that in mind, let's take a look. What do we have? The lives of the most eminent English poets. The will be capitalized because it's the first word of the title. Lives is a big word. It will be capitalized. Of and the, no. Most would be, eminent would be, English would be, and poets would be capitalized. Let's take a look at the next one. A republic, not an empire. A is the first word of the title, so it is capitalized. Republic, capitalized. Not is actually an important word, so it needs to be capitalized. And no. Empire, yes. Time tactics of very successful people. All right. The first word, time, capitalized. Tactics, capitalized. Of, little word, preposition, not capitalized. Very is capitalized. Successful, capitalized. People, capitalized. Last one, where did you get that hat? What a title. Where did you get that hat is the title. And I tell you what, every single word in that title is important. And so the whole thing is capitalized. So let's take a look at the answers and see if they match what I said, because sometimes it doesn't. The lives, most eminent English poets. A republic, not empire. Time, tactics, successful people. Where did you get that hat? Good job. That should come in handy when you are titling your essays and your paragraphs. Next section is punctuation. An N dash, the width of an N, is used to replace to or and in numbers and dates. Examples, page 7 to 22. So apparently an N dash is different from an M dash, which we had used previously. Okay, I never knew that. I just thought they were dashes. Anyways, so keeping that in mind, you're going to use an N dash to replace to or and in numbers and dates. For example, pages 7 to 22. So now we're going to punctuate this sentence. During the early part of his life, the children's grandfather was influenced by muddy waters, 1913 to 1983. All right. So during the early part of his life is an introductory prepositional phrase. Actually, there's 2 of them. And during the early part and of his life, but that's all part of the introduction. So it would be during the early part of his life, comma, the children's grandfather. The grandfather belongs to the children, so that would be an apostrophe S. The children's grandfather was influenced by muddy waters, 1913 N dash, 1983, and then the period for the sentence goes after the parentheses. So this is what I said, and this is what it should look like. During the early part of his life, the children's grandfather was influenced by muddy waters, 1913 to 1983, period. Okay. Next section, subject, verb. Delete any prepositional phrases, underline the subject once, and the verb or verb phrase twice. All right, so some of the wild geese have already flown south for the winter. Let's delete the prepositional phrases. So you can cross them out or put them in parentheses, whichever you prefer. What's the first one? Of the wild geese. Don't need it. For the winter. Don't need it. So what's left? Some have already flown south. All right? So looking at that, some would be the subject, and then the verb phrase is have flown. Next section, parts of speech, pronouns. Relative pronouns begin relative clauses. What's a clause? A clause is something that has a subject and a verb in it, but it's not, it has a subject and a verb in it. Sometimes it's independent, sometimes it's not. A relative clause is one that begins with a relative pronoun and has a subject and verb in it. So that's important when we get to the next section. Relative pronouns are who, whoever, whom, whomever, what, whatever, which, whichever, and that. And then they gave you a whole section of examples of different relative clauses. Now, they want you to write an appropriate relative clause. The gift, blank, was not from me. All right, so one of the things with the relative pronouns is they relate to what it is that they're telling us more about. So in that first sentence, the woman who cried knew the victim. Who cried is the relative clause. It's giving us more information that relates to the woman. A woman is a person, so you use who or whom or whoever when you're relating to people. When you're relating to things, you're going to use like that or which or what, not who. So if we look at our sentence, the gift with a clause that needs to come after it was not for me, we know that we're going to use that or which. My H kind of disappeared there, but that or which, because gift is not a person. All right, so you would say something like, the gift that I loved was not from me, or the gift that I gave him, that wouldn't make sense. The gift that I saw was not from me. The gift that he thought was really awesome was not from me. The gift which was really lame was not from me. All right, so you can come up with some type of relative clause. Just know that it's not going to begin with who or whom or whoever, because gift is a thing. All right, last section is sentence combining. You've got 4 sentences to combine into one. I know you guys can do it, and I know you'll do it well. I look forward to reading them. Thank you, and God bless you.